In Hunter x Hunter, starting in the first real arc, the Hunter exam, we find out that there are a lot of different ways to be strong in this world. Gon uses skills he learned from living in a forest pretty much by himself his whole life, such as using a fishing pole in various interesting ways, being extremely fast, and having an insane sense of smell. We got to see how Panzu knew how to manipulate bees so she could use them to fight people. As far as we could tell, Hanzo was just like a taijutsu master on a completely different level than most people and was able to beat most of the final contestants of the exam. Gureta and Paco, who by the way his name I'm just learning now, I don't think it was ever actually dropped in the show, but whatever, used some kind of long range weapon which were like poisonous or something. There were even the three brothers who just used really good teamwork to take people down. Pretty much what I'm trying to say is that from the get-go of this series, we were taught that there are many different ways that people can become strong and defeat others in this world. What we didn't quite realize at this point, that the stuff that they did in the Hunter exam arc was pretty much absolutely nothing compared to the power of Nen when it was finally discovered by Kilo 1 Gon. However, despite it being true that for the most part any Nen user could defeat any non-Nen user, there's still this thing where everyone fights in a totally different style than everyone else. Of course, there is the exception of enhancers, who pretty much all fight in the same way as other enhancers, but we'll just ignore them for now. Togashi created this great system where people were born with pretty much an affinity towards a certain type of Nen ability, and they were able to do other things as well, but they were supposed to stick with the one they had an affinity towards. And for the most part, the things that they could do with these different Nen abilities were coming down to their own imagination. At first we were given the impression that these weren't so much of versatile skills, because Gon was an enhancer as well as Wing, and Killua was a transmuter, but we didn't really realize the caliber of how much that could actually do. Because Gon was an enhancer, it was just like, oh yeah, he can just make himself more powerful, similar to like using Haki in One Piece. But then once we get to the Phantom Troop arc, everything completely changes. We are immediately, so early in the story, introduced to how powerful people can have totally different abilities that no one else in the world has, and they're all very powerful. With the exception of Uvo and Nobunaga, pretty much every person in the Phantom Troop had some crazy-ass wacky abilities that we could not have come up with on our own. I think Finks might have also been an enhancer, but it was really cool how he could like wind up his arm, and every time he wound it, it became significantly more powerful. I thought that was pretty cool, and I'm sure he can do many other things as well. But besides those three, everyone else's abilities were completely insane, and I'm still not really sure how far they can go with them. Shizuku can create a vacuum, which pretty much just sucks up anything she commands as long as it's dead. She cleaned up that entire massive auditorium, which was filled with dead bodies, blood, treasure. It was like unbelievable. Pakunoda's ability was to read people's minds to pretty much no limit, I believe. And the only thing that was not so great about this is I'm not sure how good her combat abilities were, but I'm guessing they were at least pretty strong. And if not, her support abilities were insane. Machi makes some kind of threads which have a lot of different things we've seen. If she attaches it to someone, she can track them to any distance in the world. She was also able to completely repair Hisoka's dismembered arms, like cleanly cut in half, okay? Like, this is beyond Dofi level repairing, okay? This was redonkulous. We don't even really know all the things she can do with her ability. I'm sure there's a lot more we haven't seen yet. We don't know too much about Kortopi, but what we do know is that he can touch an object and create an exact replica of it. So I don't really know how that would be used exactly, but I'm sure there's a million different ways that could be used in combat, especially with the help of the Phantom Troop. Feitan's ability was so ridiculously overpowered that I think there is a possibility, I don't actually know it all, but I think there is a possibility that he is actually stronger than Crollo. He created a miniature sun, okay, inside of the Chimera nest ant that they invaded. He also was immune to its heat because he made some armor for himself, which seemed to just make him invincible to it. I don't really see how any human could survive that, especially if that Queen Chimera ant was easily killed in her ridiculously defensive form. And then there is Crollo, who seems completely insane. I'm not sure what his own abilities to come up with are, but he is able to steal people's abilities and not just completely copy them, but after he does copy them, they can no longer use that ability. And that would be pretty devastating for them if that happened to them in combat. Like, imagine Gon versus Crollo. Gon tries using John Ken, and boom, he steals it. What's Gon gonna do? He's done? Like, it's pretty insane. Another extremely cool thing that I was so excited about when it was first revealed that Togashi added to the system is that you can set conditions to make your Nen even more powerful. This was also first shown in the Phantom Troop arc when Kurapika was using it, and that was pretty much the time we've seen it in the most ridiculous form. The only exception, I guess, would be Gon killing Pito. I guess the condition there was supposed to be that he was going to die, but he didn't end up dying, so I don't even really like to consider it a condition. But it was really cool how Kurapika set up very specific rules, like that he could only use his chains on Phantom Troop members. Because if you think about it, it's like, well, generally speaking, that is a very limited ability. There's only like 13 people in the entire world that he actually can use it on, so the targets it is usable on is very low. But because of that exact thing, it makes them so ridiculously overpowered. That's what I mean when I say that the hunter, or just the person, I guess you don't have to necessarily be a hunter, has to be very creative and imaginative when creating these abilities. I thought it was awesome when at first Kurapika was disappointed that he was a conjurer, since that makes him pretty far away from being an enhancer, which he wanted to be ideally. But he's like, you know what, I'm gonna find the most optimal way to use this. And, you know, honestly, I really don't think that being an enhancer would be better for him. I think he found the best way to complete his goal of taking down the Phantom Troop. Thanks to the fact that he's a conjurer and he came up with some great conditions, he really has a huge advantage on any individual Phantom Troop member. Now, probably the most important reason that I like this power system so much is because, and this is exactly what Moral said, that when it comes to a battle of Nen users, you cannot decide at the very beginning who is going to win. Because people's abilities are so diverse and really just random, you have no idea what someone's going to use. There's so many different things that could happen in a battle between two Nen users. Not just does this give the possibility of someone being completely countered by someone else, despite maybe the person being countered being overall more of a stronger person, but this also gives the opportunity for either person to be in the game pretty much at all times. If they can figure out a clever way to defeat their opponent using both their own abilities and using their opponent's abilities against them, it's always possible for anyone to win at pretty much any time. Of course, there probably are exceptions to this rule, like I would say Killua in the Chimera Ant arc, Kurapika, I mean people like Leorio, okay, people who use Nen but aren't that good at it yet, they would never stand a chance against someone like Meruem. He doesn't even really need to use Nen, he is just so physically overpowered, there's no way for anyone who's not on the god tier, like Netero or Jing or something like that, any of the Zodiacs really, to even put a scratch on him. But if you do get to a high degree of power, which it seems like anyone in this world can, you could theoretically take down Meruem by being very creative with your abilities. I mean, for real, with some of these abilities, you don't even need to be that creative, they're so overwhelmingly powerful. Like, if just a massive explosion was pretty much enough to kill Meruem, technically he was alive, I guess, since he was brought back to life, but let's just say, I don't know, Phaeton, okay? Fight Meruem. I'm pretty sure that sun is at least as powerful as that nuke. Maybe it doesn't have as much AoE as the nuke, but it's a goddamn sun. Do you know how hot that would be? I just finished rewatching this series, and I am so hyped about it that I am now going to start reading the manga. I have not really liked reading manga so much in the past, but I've really been getting into it lately. I'm now starting Attack on Titan, I'm then going to catch up in My Hero, and then I think I'm going to probably read Hunter x Hunter. I am so excited to start reading so I can see more of the crazy stuff that Togashi has planned for Nen, okay? I know that he didn't even scratch the surface in the Chimera Ant arc, since, I mean, pretty much the Royal Guards only had like one ability each. I wouldn't even say that Yuppie really had an ability. He just like exploded and was pretty physically strong, just like Meruem. And now that I've seen that there are people like the Zodiacs, I know that they're just going to be crazy ass Nen abilities on Phantom Troop level, and I am so excited for it. So I pretty much think that wraps up this topic. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Remember to leave me a comment letting me know what you think about this video, other videos you'd like me to make in the future. Make sure that it's more of a popular show, so maybe I've seen it. I'm not against watching new stuff, but it's gonna take a while. I have a pretty long queue at this point. I am way more than willing now to read mangas, as I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but this recent My Hero video I made has just been getting ridiculous amounts of traffic, and because of that, the channel has as well. I've now reached over 300 subscribers, which makes me more happy than you can ever imagine. I don't really even know what to say. I don't know how to thank you guys enough. I remember being around like 15 subscribers, 50% of those being like people that I know at least, and I just thought like, man, if I could just hit 100, if I could get a custom URL, that would be like the coolest thing that could ever happen to me. And now this channel is really picking up in speed, and I could not be happier. This is the coolest thing I've ever done. Also, because there are more people here now, I will say it again, make sure to follow me on Twitter, okay? It's not that active right now, but I really would like it to be, and I check it every day. And if you DM me or anything, I'll pretty much respond every time. I love interacting with you guys. It's so fun. I'm having so much fun doing YouTube, coming out with these video ideas, reading, watching new stuff. It's just been great. Because of the insane popularity of the last My Hero video I did, I'm going to do another My Hero video next Friday, so look forward to that. Once again, thank you so much for watching until the end. Thank you so much for over 300 subs, and I'll talk to you guys on Sunday.